Welcome to the Toastmasters Experience. My name is Evelyn. Get inspired by today's Toastmasters insights. Enjoy the show. And welcome to another episode of the Toastmasters Experience. I'm very excited. In the studio I have today one of the newer members of Blue Mountains Toastmasters, but I'm finding one of the most important members, and I'm so grateful to have Charmaine in the studio and also in the Blue Mountains Toastmasters Club. So welcome, Charmaine.
Thank you, Evelyn. It's just such a pleasure to be here this morning.
Yeah, no, I'm so grateful to have you here with me. It's a beautiful, cold day out in the mountains, which is very typical, foggy, but we love living up here. So I'm going to ask you, what motivated you to join Toastmasters?
I had been thinking about joining Toastmasters for probably about 18 months. I joined primarily because I wanted to learn how to write and deliver speeches. But Toastmasters, I have come to find, is a lot more than learning how to write and deliver a speech. It's about camaraderie. It's about expanding my comfort zone. It's about getting used to timing, because I am someone who believes that we all arrive in the perfect time. We do things in the perfect time, but at Toastmasters, we need to do things according to the number of minutes that we have allocated to ourselves.
Yeah, which actually is a great skill as well, because you know that in 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, I need to really have a beginning and ending, some points in between. So it is a good skill. Now, how long have you been a member of Blue Mountains Toastmasters?
I've been a member now for about 8 months. I joined in February, and I have had probably an experience in Toastmasters where I have had the great pleasure of assisting in most of the roles just over the last few months. But I have settled, and I'm now Sergeant at Arms.
Yes, I know, and you're doing a fantastic job. People probably would be surprised to hear that you are a teacher. How long have you been a teacher?
I've been a teacher now for 44 years.
Wow. So when I hear that you've been a teacher for 44 years, why would you want to join something where you learn how to speak?
I am quite adept at giving lessons and giving lectures to a large number of people, but I wanted to finesse my skills, because as a teacher, we tend to have one tone. We tend to deliver our lessons in a particular way. And I wanted to expand my knowledge base on actually delivering talks where there was much more engagement with the group.
Yeah, with the students. Okay. That's really interesting, because I remember when you first joined, and I've known you for a few years, as you've taught everybody's child here in the mountains. But I was like, why is she joining? I find that everyone joins for a different reason. So you've just explained that why you joined. But I also know that you did another public speaking course. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I've also been studying with a fellow called Vinh Giang in Adelaide, and he operates the Stage Academy. So I'm currently still training with him. It's a 12-month course, and just to again improve the way that I deliver speeches. He teaches about how to use your voice. So looking at pitch, looking at the tempo of your voice, how you might change it up to continue to engage your audience.
Okay.
And in fact, I've been using some of those skills.
Okay.
And I gave a talk recently to, I think there were about 100 students. And when I finished, they all stood up and clapped.
Oh, wow.
Which I'd never experienced before.
Okay.
But that was all about getting engagement, the audience engagement, and making my voice interesting to listen to.
So for Vinh Giang's course and the combination with Toastmasters, that must make you just on the road to being a super speaker. Is that what you believe? Or
Well, I'm not sure that I'm going to be a super speaker, but I did have someone say to me the other day, which I thought was quite funny, because I have probably delivered talks to about 15,000 people over the course of my career, especially in the last 34 years where I've had a particular role where I've actually been giving information out to parents. But this particular Toastmaster said to me at the end of one of the seminars, he said, "Oh, you have the makings to be a good public speaker."
oh, okay.
And I thought, oh, if only you knew.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why I really wanted to have you come in today because, you know, a lot of people join Toastmasters because they've never given a speech before at all. But you actually have a lot of experience and you see the value in joining something like Toastmasters. So what has surprised you about joining Toastmasters, something that you actually never knew?
One of the things that I learnt about myself is that I need to focus on eye contact, would you believe? Because it's really easy to stand in front of students and it's easy to stand in front of parents and give a speech. It's a different experience to sit in front or stand in front of 20 adults who, for many of those adults, are adept speakers. Even though I might come with this experience, I feel in many ways I'm completely inexperienced because I'm still learning the tricks on how to put a speech together. And I haven't quite learnt that yet.
Everybody who comes into Toastmasters, they bring their different experiences, not just public speaking. So you've come to Toastmasters to learn how to, you know, learn different things about public speaking, but you've brought your organizational skills to get our systems in place because all Toastmasters clubs are run differently in some ways. We do have an agenda and we do have certain things we have to follow, pay our dues on time and all that sort of jazz. But then all clubs are run very differently. So you've brought that experience with you. Have you learned something from other members that has helped you?
I think table topics is the area that I've learnt the most from. Every time, I always believe in my philosophy of living is that we are all lifelong learners and every day we learn something new. So when I attend a club meeting, I look for the things that I'm learning. I look for the tips and the tricks that I might be able to put into place for myself when I do something like table topics. I think what I've really learned from the group, from the Blue Mountains group, is that people are really supportive and it doesn't matter if I get up and I make a mess of what I'm saying. It doesn't matter because what matters most is that the next time I make a small improvement. And Vinh Giang actually says, as long as we continue to make an improvement by 1%, over time, that 1% becomes 100%. We have a fairly adept table topics member amongst us. I haven't quite put together exactly how she gets up and gives her speeches, but I'm learning. I'm just learning. Yeah. So what I have learned, you make an impact statement at the beginning, you make some statements in the middle, and then you make an impact statement at the end.
Yeah, sort of concluding it, kind of mentioning what you mentioned at the very beginning. But it's hard when you only have 2.5 minutes. This particular member you're talking about, she's amazing. And I've seen her through the years. And it's like, how did she come up with that? But it's interesting because she has had a bit of acting experience. Mm-hmm. So I think that all helps. I think acting helps. If you speak at your job, like you as a teacher or being an officiant or celebrant or being a lawyer, we have a lawyer in our group. We're natural speakers, but we're still learning the organization of everything and the timing. I think timing is very, very important.
I love my role as Sergeant at Arms. I adore that role. And the reason that I really like it is because I believe that if you set up a space, it allows the energy of that space to support the people coming in. And so one of the big lessons that I have learned is how to make sure that I start on time, because, as we know, I'm a little relaxed with my timing.
Yeah.
But what I try to do every week is to introduce an inspiring quote. And in fact, one of the quotes that I introduced a few meetings ago was "Feel the fear and do it anyway"
Yeah.
by a woman called Susan Jeffers. And one of our members said, "Can we adopt that as our club motto?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've adopted that saying, which I must say, a whole generation of my students grew up with that motto: "Feel the fear and do it anyway."
Okay. Yeah. I love what you just said about Sergeant at Arms, because you're right. It sets the tone. I love that incorporation of an inspirational speech at the beginning. So maybe that's something other listeners out there right now, if you hear that, maybe that's something you can incorporate in your club meeting. Maybe you did already.
And the other thing that I also make sure is that we have table tags on the tables in front of people so that we know who they are. What I've introduced is, rather than getting the table tag and putting it in front of people, I've introduced a little bit of a routine where people come and get their own table tag and they put it in front. And if we have a guest, for instance, the guest's table tag is handwritten, I make sure that if they're coming back the next time that they have a printed table tag, because it's all about that welcoming and belonging and feeling invited and included. So that's one of the things that I certainly pride myself on. People do feel a little welcomed as well.
Yeah. And I think the table tags with the names, I think are really good, even though we all know each other, but it's still good if somebody does walk in and doesn't know who we are. Is there a memorable moment that you've had so far at Blue Mountains Toastmasters?
Yes, there is. I had given the toast one meeting and I went 30 seconds over. And that is the lesson that I learned about making sure that you stick to time. So that was quite memorable. It was a little hard to hear that I had gone 30 seconds over, but I make sure now that I stick to my time. And that's also a personal lesson, which I think is really important, that we do stick to the time. We do make sure that if I have 2 minutes that I don't go over, because if I go over and the next person goes over and the next person goes over, then that accumulates through the meeting, and then we find ourselves leaving at 10 o'clock as opposed to 9:30. And many people are workers, so that was a memorable moment for me.
It's actually a really good life lesson, because we do attend, workshops, and people have only this amount of time. And then if they go over, it does affect the person who's delivering something at the very last minute, or ceremonies. If you tell someone you can only speak 3 to 5 minutes and they go over, it affects everything. So it is a good lesson. Sometimes we're just waiting for that green light, especially at table topics. Like, oh God, have I spoken enough? So no, it is a really good lesson. I think there's more at table topics. People go under time than over time, but no, that's great. How has Toastmasters helped you in your personal or professional life?
It may sound a bit surprising, but my confidence has increased.
Wow. Okay.
So I find that when I'm speaking in my day-to-day job, and even in my role as a celebrant, that I have just another level of confidence.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, and you'd said this the other day, Evelyn, that Toastmasters is like a family, and I feel like I have joined a family.
Yeah.
And the joy that I feel with that has been incredible. Facebook is a really good source for inspiration. And I'd listened to something a number of months ago. In fact, it was quite a while ago. And it said, if you want to change your life, don't take something out of your life, add something into your life. And at the time, I was feeling a little stale in my life, and that was the motivation that I needed to join Toastmasters.
Okay.
And to put something else into my life. And it's been really interesting, because not only the self-confidence has improved, but also my levels of joy have improved. So I have it all on the calendar, and I say to my husband, I've got Toastmasters tonight. And it's said with such excitement.
Yeah.
And with the drudgery sometimes of daily living, oh, I've got to go to work today. It's with Toastmasters for me, it's, oh, I've got to go to Toastmasters, and nothing gets in the way.
Yeah.
I had something that I was involved with a few weeks ago, and it was a big performance of all the schools in the Upper Mountains. And I said to them very clearly, I have to leave at 10 to 6 because I am going to Toastmasters tonight. Mm-hmm. And so I did all the work previously, made sure that my absence, and it was a fairly short performance, but made sure that there was somebody else there to take my place so that I could go to Toastmasters, because that is my number one priority.
I love that because you are in a job that you speak, and I'm in a job that I speak as well. And I've spoken to people who are, officiant celebrants, whatever you call them, and they're like, oh no, I don't need to join Toastmasters. I know how to speak. And you as a teacher, I know how to speak. But there's this level of joy that I feel too when I do go to a meeting and it runs smoothly. Even if it doesn't run smoothly, there's always, there's something I can learn, and I do love that. So I think this is really important for people out there who are listening, that even if you are in a speaking job, a lawyer, a teacher, a celebrant minister, you can gain so much from Toastmasters. And I love that you have shared that right now. Okay, so you've been a member for 8 months now. What do you think is the best thing so far about Blue Mountains Toastmasters?
I love the venue. I have always had an affinity with the Carrington, and it is the most beautiful place to come every second week to hold our meetings. It is almost like, in many ways, walking into a different time where time has frozen, and there's this beautiful decor, and the staff are very, very welcoming, and they help set up the room. And as a sergeant-at-arms, it's my responsibility to set up furniture and get the room together, whereas I don't have to do the furniture, so I'm so pleased about that. But for those of you that are listening, if you are in the mountains in Katoomba, take a visit to the Carrington Hotel. It is an experience to behold. And it's quite interesting because my granddaughter, who is 5, someone asked her the other day, what did you do on the weekend? And she said, I went to the Carrington.
Okay.
Because we often take our grandchildren there now.
Yeah.
Because I have such an affinity through Toastmasters to the Carrington Hotel, our grandchildren now like to go. And it's just lovely. We wander up and we have lunch or afternoon tea, and it's just beautiful. Members of the public are welcome after 11 o'clock on a Saturday and Sunday, and certainly through the week. But it is certainly a beautiful place to visit.
And in that vein, we are so lucky to be at the Carrington. I've been fortunate to have gone to so many different clubs over the years, overseas as well. And I've truly got to say the Carrington has got to be the best. Though there was a club in London that I visited, which was pretty close to the Carrington. But we are very lucky. Of course, different clubs have to pay for their venues or they get them for free. So we are lucky to be able to go to the Carrington. We do have to pay a fee, but it does make a difference, because I have been to those meetings where you have to set everything up. It's cold, and then you have to pack everything up, which is part of the meeting process. But we're very lucky to be at the Carrington. What do you see as far as your future goes with Toastmasters?
Well, I'd certainly like to be a part of the competitions. I don't feel that I have the confidence as yet. What I'm also hoping eventually, when I've retired, I'd like to do some funeral celebrancy work. And I see that the confidence that I'm gaining here will help me there. The other thing that I also have, a little dream that I have, is perhaps one day I could be a public speaker where I could be invited to come along to different little clubs and places to give speeches. I'm certainly not there yet, but I would hope perhaps one day I might have some skills that would afford me the opportunity to do that.
That is what I love about Toastmasters. It does open up opportunities. And when you start, you've only been a member for 8 months, but when you start going to district events, conventions, even the World Convention, it's so exciting to see how people have progressed through the years. I know you're a teacher. What do you see with the younger generation as far as speaking and communication?
My observation of the younger generation is that they are losing the art of conversation and the art of being able to express themselves clearly. I know that when we were raising our children, our youngest daughter would say, "Oh, I spoke to so-and-so today." And I'd say, "Oh, have you? And how did you do that?" "Well, I sent them a text message." And I could see that Toastmasters in the future, for some of our young people, especially going into corporate positions, could do with some public speaking training. And in actual fact, I did do a mini course at the school that I work at. It was called Mrs. Tully's 101 Public Speaking. And I did four seminars for our leadership group on how to better present themselves with their public speaking. And it was quite interesting to see the improvement that they made. And one of the young people said to me a couple of months later, he said, "I really found that valuable." Mm-hmm. And that young man will be someone who'll probably go into politics or into some public forum. Mm-hmm. But I do see that it's a great value for our younger people who communicate now fairly much by text message or in written form.
Yeah. Well, I've just loved that you've said that, because there are programs in Toastmasters where you can start a gavel club. I don't know all the details, but I have seen them form for the younger generation, and I think that's something that we probably as the Blue Mountains Club need to look into. It's been such a pleasure having you on, but I'm going to ask you one last question. What advice would you give someone considering joining Toastmasters?
My advice would be feel the fear and do it anyway. It is very scary to join for some people. It was scary for me, but after a little bit of time, it becomes familiar. And so I would say to anyone listening out there, if you want to improve your confidence, if you want to improve how you speak, Toastmasters is a fantastic, supportive place to come to improve your skills.
Thank you so much. That is perfect. Thanks again, Charmaine, for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for your company. Please tune in next time to the Toastmasters Experience.